The car in front of you stops, and the next half second lasts a lifetime. You see the brake lights. You feel your own foot moving toward the pedal, slowly, as if through water. You have time to notice the bumper sticker, the crack in the taillight, the exact shade of red. A strange, stretched calm settles over you, and in that calm, you think a dozen clear thoughts, and only then does the world snap back and the tires scream, and it is over. It could not have taken more than a second, but you were in there for what felt like an hour. Afterward, you tell people that time slowed down, and they nod because it has happened to them too. The fall, the crash, the moment the floor gave way. Soldiers describe it, climbers describe it, people who have been pulled out of water describe it. Almost everyone who has stood close enough to death to feel its breath reports the same impossible thing, and almost everyone explains it the same way. Your brain sped up, you say. It went into overdrive. It processed the world faster, like a bullet time movie, so the seconds stretched out to give you a fighting chance. But the real answer is far stranger. Your brain did not speed up. Time did not slow down. Nothing about that moment was happening the way it felt. And what actually occurred tells you something unsettling about the nature of every second you have ever lived. Let me start with the part that breaks the story you have always believed. A neuroscientist named David Eagleman wanted to test this directly. Not with surveys, not with memories, but with an actual experiment, because memories of danger are exactly the thing in question. So he needed to frighten people safely, and then measure whether their perception genuinely sped up in the moment. He built a setup that let volunteers fall backward from a height of roughly 15 stories into a net in genuine free fall, long enough to be terrifying, safe enough to survive. If ever a brain was going to enter bullet time, this was the moment. Then he gave the fallers something to do on the way down. He strapped a small screen to each person's wrist, and on that screen a number flickered, alternating with its own reverse image, faster than a normal brain can read. Too fast. Under ordinary conditions, it is just a blur. His logic was simple and clever. If danger truly makes your brain run faster, if it really raises your frame rate the way people describe, then during the fall, those flickering numbers should slow down enough to become readable. The test was not what people remembered. The test was what they could actually see while falling. They could not read the numbers. Not one of them gained the superhuman perception the story promised. Their eyes and brains were running at exactly the same speed as always. In the moment itself, falling through the air in genuine terror, their perception had not sped up at all. Think about how strange that result is. These people were not calm. They were screaming. Their hearts were hammering. Their bodies were flooded with adrenaline. Every alarm they owned was going off at once. If terror were going to unlock a hidden high-speed mode in the human brain, this was the purest possible test of it. And the hidden mode simply was not there. The bullet time everyone describes, the cinematic slow motion that lets the hero read a bullet in the air, is not something your brain can actually do. It was a story all along. And yet, when Eagleman asked them afterward how long their own fall had lasted, they overestimated it, massively. By around a third. They were certain the fall had taken far longer than it did. So sit with that contradiction, because it is the whole mystery. In the moment, time ran normally, but in memory, the moment had stretched. The slowing down was real. It just did not happen when you thought it did. To understand how that works, you have to stop thinking of memory as a recording and start thinking of it as a receipt. Under normal conditions, your brain is lazy about laying down memory, and for good reason. Most of your life is routine. The drive to work, the walk to the kitchen, the 1,000th time you brushed your teeth. Your brain has seen it all before, so it barely writes any of it down. It keeps a thin, efficient sketch. Why waste storage on a Tuesday that looked like every other Tuesday? But danger changes the setting instantly. The moment a real threat appears, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, the amygdala, seizes control. It is your threat alarm, and when it fires, it does something dramatic to how memory gets written. It flips your brain from that thin, efficient sketch into a mode of frantic, total recording. Suddenly, everything matters. The color of the car, the angle of the wheel, the sound, the light. Every detail is captured, densely, redundantly, as if your survival depends on remembering exactly what this danger looked like. Because, for your ancestors, it did. Imagine the one who survived a leopard at the watering hole. The lesson could not be vague. A blurry sense that something bad happened by some water is useless. What kept the next generation alive was the specifics, burned in hard. That water, that light, that shape in the reeds. That sound a half-second before it moved. A brain that recorded danger in overwhelming detail produced descendants who saw it coming the second time. A brain that filed danger under a quick sketch produced no descendants at all. So you inherited the brain that overreacts. In a genuine emergency, it stops economizing and records everything, because the ancestors who did that are the only ones who got to have you. The psychologists Roger Pittman and James McGaugh spent years studying how strong emotion burns memories in deeper, and the mechanism they uncovered is precise. Stress hormones flooding the brain at the moment of fear act like a chemical highlighter, marking that memory as critically important and locking it in with a vividness that ordinary moments never get. So now you have two versions of the same second. A normal second, thinly recorded, a quick sketch, and a terrifying second, recorded in overwhelming, saturated detail. And here is the trick your brain plays on you. When you look back and ask how long something took, you do not consult a clock. You cannot. Your brain has no internal stopwatch. It can rewind, so it does the only thing it can. It estimates duration by how much memory is there. More memory feels like more time. You can catch this happening in tiny, harmless ways. Think of a journey to a place you had never been. It felt long, didn't it? Full of turns and landmarks and uncertainty. Now think of the journey home, the exact same distance. It felt shorter. Nothing about the road changed. What changed was that the way there was new and densely recorded, and the way back was already familiar and barely written down. Same minutes. Different amount of memory. Different felt length. That normal second left almost nothing behind, so it feels like it flashed past. But that terrifying second left a mountain of detail, far more than a single second should ever contain, and your brain reads that mountain and draws the only conclusion available. This must have taken a long time. Look how much happened. It did not take a long time. It just took up a lot of space. The slow motion you remember was never in the moment. It was written in afterward by the sheer weight of everything your frightened brain refused to let go of. Now think about what that means, because it goes far beyond car crashes. Your entire sense of how fast your life is passing is built on this exact mechanism. You are not measuring time. You are measuring memory. And that quietly explains one of the strangest and saddest features of being alive. Ask anyone why childhood summers felt endless and why the years now vanish like smoke. This is why. When you were young, everything was new. First days, first fears, first everything, and your brain, meeting a world it had never seen, recorded all of it in dense, first-time detail. Those years left mountains of memory behind, so they feel enormous when you look back. But as you get older, less is new. More of your days rhyme with days you have already lived, so your brain shrugs and files them under the sketch you already have. A year of routine leaves almost nothing behind, and an empty year, looked back upon, feels like it barely happened at all. This is why a summer at age 8 felt longer than a whole year at 40. It is not that the child had more time. The clock ran at exactly the same speed for both. It is that the child was recording constantly because everything was a first, and the adult is recording almost nothing because almost nothing is. The 8-year-old walks away from June with a thick book of memory. The 40-year-old walks away from the entire year with a few loose pages. And when each of them looks back, the brain does its only trick and reads the thickness of the book as the length of the time. The crash and the vanishing decade are the same phenomenon, running in opposite directions. Terror packs a single second with a lifetime of detail and stretches it. Routine empties out whole years and makes them disappear. Which means the feeling of a slow, rich, endless stretch of time is not something that happens to you. It is something novelty does to your memory, and that hands you something you can actually use. If time feels like it is accelerating as you age, the reason is that you have stopped giving your brain anything new to write down. The cure is not to work faster or squeeze more into each day. The cure is to make your days different from each other again. New places, new skills, new people. Unfamiliar routes home, Every genuinely new experience forces your brain back into dense recording mode, and dense recording is the only thing that has ever made time feel full. You cannot slow the clock. Nobody can, and nobody ever will. But you can change how much of your life you actually keep, and in the only way that has ever counted, that is the same thing as making it longer. The car in front of you stops, and the next half second lasts a lifetime. It was never the second that stretched. It was you, for one terrified moment, finally paying enough attention to remember being alive. Which leaves you with one last thing to carry out of here. Your life will not be measured by the number of years you lived. It will be measured by the number of moments your brain refused to forget.